acceptance. The crown is heavy, as we famously all know. It is a job. It's a job that the Queen was doing until the very day before her passing. She was appointing and acknowledging our latest UK Prime Minister, Liz Truss. So that's her level of industry commitment and dedication. Now, one of the dilemmas of being Queen, of course, is that you can't show your personal feelings. You can't get up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to take a personal day. She could never do that. She was always the Queen. And in fact, her entire day was subsumed by appointments under which she was really scrutinized every second. And in fact, because she couldn't speak out openly, everything she did, said, or wore was seen to be significant in some way. And to reign for 70 odd years and to weather so much political and personal and economic upheaval is amazing.
96 years old, 70 years as Queen. Now, Tricia, this is someone who guided the UK through truly monumental change. What do you see as her legacy?
I see her legacy as her family, really. I know it seems quite fractured and what have you. I think the fact that Prince Harry is up there in Scotland as well. And I do think we're going to see a lot of innovative things from Prince Charles. In many ways, well, King Charles, I should say now. He recently co-edited the Voice, which is the black newspaper. He's done a lot with the Prince's Trust, for instance, and what have you. And I think that is because of the Queen being the backbone. I just want to point out how monumental it is that Putin, amongst everything that's going on, that Putin actually reached out and offered his condolences. I mean, if that doesn't show the power of the Queen in bringing people together, in looking forward to the future, in giving people grounding, I really don't know what does.
You know, let me follow up, Atisha, because for most of Britain's lives, the national anthem has been God Save the Queen. That now shifts to God Save the King. So what does this mean for the monarchy and for the country?
It means a huge deal. I was thinking just a moment ago, my goodness, they're going to have to change all the stamping of the profile on the coins. You're absolutely right. The national anthem is going to change. The very song that you have to memorize as a school kid, that's all going to change. There never has been any experience of there being any other monarch. What's extraordinary to me is that the Queen's duty has been so long-standing that she's shuffled through prime ministers and presidents, and yet she always remains the same.
Good point indeed. All right, guys, thank you very, very much. Kate Williams, Tricia Goddard, Batisha Mamata. Appreciate it. Coming up, bells tolled to mark the passing of Britain's longest reigning monarch. We'll have a closer look at the life of Elizabeth II. That's next.
Over 250 million young people are not in education, employment, or training. But how you start in life shouldn't determine what you do in the future. In the last 3 years, Future Makers by Standard Chartered has supported more than 650,000 talented young people from low-income communities, empowering them to learn, earn, and grow. Because where others see problems, we see potential. We're Standard Chartered, and we're here for good.
Hi, I'm CNN meteorologist Jennifer Gray, and this Weather Watch is in association with Visit Maldives. Let's get to your forecast across Europe, because you can see some rain stretching from north to south, cloud cover here, and that's all pushing to the east, giving a little bit of a break across Western Europe for the time being. But we do have a front that's draped offshore that could have an impact in the coming days. So scattered showers really across the UK, Ireland. We're looking at all the way across central sections of Europe to the east as well. Could see some scattered showers and storms. So we're going to look at some off and on rain, sporadic, and then keeping those clouds in place as well. But the rain really flares up across portions of Germany and even France by the time we get into the beginning part of the weekend. So we're going to keep those showers in place there with anywhere from, say, 25 to 50 millimeters of rain. Some isolated locations, especially across the east, could be a little bit higher. So looking at close to 75 there. So Bucharest right around 32 degrees, Athens at 31, sunshine sunshine there. Rome could see some storms. Temperatures around 29 degrees, 20 in Paris, 20 in London as well, with stormy skies, or the potential there for stormy skies. So by the time we get into the beginning part of next week, we'll see warmer temperatures across western sections of Europe. Have a good day.
I'm Blake Essig in Tokyo, and this is CNN.
Our CNN team is here.
From Hong Kong to Beijing and Dubai, London and New York.
CNN, covering the world's business.
CNN Partner Hotel. The world is always at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels. Connected to your world.
Out front tonight, a potential breakthrough in treating coronavirus.
We've gotten very little help from the federal government.
Could all this spending lead to a bigger economic crisis? One of our viewers saw you last night on the show. She says she's going to pay your rent this month. Shut up. I want to go now to an incredible story of survival. Would you do it all again in terms of being a nurse, knowing that that could put you at risk for this?
I want to help people more than I ever have.
Aaron Burnett out front, tonight on CNN.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
These are live pictures coming in right now from just outside Buckingham Palace in London. Tonight we're following the death of Queen Elizabeth II at age 96 and the accession of her oldest son, now King Charles III. The Queen dying at her home in Scotland after just marking 70 years on the throne, the longest reign in British history. Tonight, outside Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, there are crowds, large crowds, remembering their late monarch, for most the only one they've ever known. Here once again is CNN royal correspondent Max Foster.
Britain's Queen Elizabeth II, crowned at Westminster Abbey on June 2nd, 1953. This was the first time the public was able to witness this sacrosanct moment. Elizabeth had allowed live television cameras in to capture it, in a powerful signal that this was a new, open and relevant monarchy. Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, known as Lilibet to friends, was born on April the 21st, 1926. It was only a decade later that she knew she was truly destined to lead an empire. It was a fluke of history, a work of scandal.
A few hours ago, I discharged my last duty as king and emperor.
Her uncle, Edward, abdicated to marry the love of his life, Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee and therefore spoiler to the throne. Elizabeth's father became king. She was the accidental heir, which entrenched in her a sense of duty. She was devout, almost spiritual, about her responsibilities as a royal, even before being crowned.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
I seem to remember having listened to that speech and I remember very well, I certainly remember reading it not so much, not many years later, the way she dedicated her life to the country. And that was an example which I very much felt that when I grew older, that was what it was about. You dedicate your life to your country.
On November the 20th, 1947, she wed her childhood sweetheart, the tall and dashing Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark, titled the Duke of Edinburgh. The following year, their marriage bore Elizabeth's heir, Prince Charles. For more than half a century, the Queen led her empire, before overseeing its managed decline as it became known as the Commonwealth, an association of now independent countries.
Sir Winston and Lady Churchill came to receive Her Majesty.
Her first Prime Minister was Winston Churchill. During her rule, she met every acting US president bar one, meetings that she always prioritised.
She remembers learning from her parents how important keeping America on side was during the war, and then America came into the war. She remembers that so well. She remembers, you know, the American troops, D-Day, all that. To her, it's a very important part of her growing up.
Whilst the British monarch has no political power, Elizabeth wielded immense power as a figurehead, as demonstrated in 2011 when she became the first monarch to visit neighbouring Ireland since its separation from the United Kingdom.
We can all see things which we would wish.
Then Prime Minister David Cameron described the trip as a game changer in Anglo-Irish relations. A year later, the Queen travelled to Belfast in another significant moment of her reign, an historic handshake with former IRA commander Martin McGuinness, a public symbol of peace following decades of conflict in Northern Ireland. There was, nonetheless, a very private side to this wife, mother and grandmother. Stiff upper-lipped in public and so guarded there's little footage to show the sense of humour she's reputed to have displayed behind closed doors. On occasion, she did open up. With uncharacteristic candour and emotion, the Queen herself marked 1992 as a very bad year.
It has turned out to be an annus horribilis,
punctuated by several family splits and a fire at her beloved Windsor Castle. 3 of her 4 children would divorce, Charles most famously, and then that crash.
We are just getting word that the French government has informed all of us that Princess Diana has died.
The royal family's restrained response collided with a British public convulsing in heartache. Elizabeth learned a tough lesson through all of the grief. She wasn't merely a mother or a grandmother, rather a queen to a people, no matter what. An enduring image, the Queen bowing her head to Princess Diana's coffin, marking a sad period for the royal family, Britain, and its relationship with the monarchy. Over more than a decade, however, public faith in the royal family did rebuild. The Queen was visibly thrilled by the show of support for the royal wedding between her grandson William and partner Kate in 2011. Then the following year, polls showed the British royal family at the height of their popularity as the Queen celebrated 60 years on the throne. She used her Diamond Jubilee to present a slimmed-down monarchy. Only the key royals paraded and waved, a sign of a more economic family for the 21st century. In later years, the Queen welcomed several additions to the family, including Prince George, her first great-grandson and future heir to the throne, born in 2013 to the then Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Reflecting the modern age, Prince Harry later married Meghan Markle, the royal family extending again to embrace an actress with African-American ancestry, in time welcoming baby Archie. Prince Philip retired from public duties in 2017. Meanwhile, the Queen continued, indefatigable. She gradually slowed her busy schedule, certainly in terms of travel, but in September 2015, whilst opening a new railway in Scotland, without ceremony or commemorative fireworks, Queen Elizabeth II passed her revered predecessor, Victoria, to become Britain's longest reigning monarch. Controversy visited the family again in 2019, as the Queen's second son, Prince Andrew, gave an ill-advised interview to the BBC amid allegations of sexual misconduct.
I let the side down.
Any hopes for a quieter year ahead were dashed when Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, made a shock announcement at the start of 2020.
This is the last time they'll be walking into the Abbey.
Giving up their public roles and duties, they moved to North America with a mission to become financially independent. Crisis talks and another contentious interview soon followed. In 2021, at the age of 99, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, passed away. Senior royals attended the funeral, scaled back due to coronavirus, to celebrate his 7 decades of service and mourn the passing of a devoted husband, father, grandfather and great-grandfather.
We therefore pray.
Elizabeth stood alone as she watched his coffin lower into the royal vault in Windsor, bidding farewell to her husband of 73 years, the man she described as her strength and stay. She will be remembered as one of the great monarchs, able to hand a strengthened crown to her heir, despite reigning over a period of tumultuous change.
CNN's Max Foster reporting for us. Max, thank you very, very much. Joining us now, the former Communications Secretary to the Queen, Simon Lewis. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. I'm curious, how are you remembering Queen Elizabeth tonight?
Well, Wolf, I'm extremely sad. I think, like not just the country, but a lot of the world. I was lucky enough to work for the Queen for 2 years, from 1998 to 2000, and it was an enormous privilege. I remember her huge sense of duty, her hard work, her tremendous sense of humour, her commitment to her country, and obviously thoughts with King Charles as well, His Majesty King Charles, because he's lost a mother. He's lost both of his parents now, so it's a very human moment as well. So it's a combination of sadness and also realising that, like all great institutions, there's a moment of transition, and that is happening in front of our eyes.
Certainly is, and as you well know, the Queen served in an incredibly public role for 7 decades, but she was also a very private person. Can you share with us a treasured moment you had with her?
Well, the extraordinary thing about the Queen is once you were a close advisor, and before I was appointed to Buckingham Palace, I'd never met a member of the royal family, but once you were inside that circle, you were treated almost as if you were a member of the family. Obviously you weren't. And I remember the first time I went to Balmoral, just after I'd been appointed, and the first night we went off one of the famous barbecues, and a Range Rover drew up, and I was asked to drive the car, which sounded like a good idea, until Her Majesty got in and sat next to me, and I realised it was Her Majesty and myself driving down to the barbecue. So I'm very glad I had my driving licence that night. And then I remember when I was at the palace presenting a particular proposal to the Queen for a particular project, which I thought was a great idea, and she looked at it and we talked about it, and she said, "Simon, that's far too grand for us." So I think that combination of being pragmatic, testing people a bit, but also being very clear about what she wanted on behalf of the institution and the monarchy was a defining characteristic.
Simon, we saw that photo of Queen Elizabeth meeting the new British Prime Minister, Liz Truss, just 2 days ago. What does that say about the Queen's dedication to her duties, even in her final days?
Wolf, absolutely extraordinary. If you think, as we all know, the Queen's first Prime Minister was Winston Churchill, and Liz Truss was her 15th and last Prime Minister. And in those last days, she still wanted for it to be seen that she was both saying farewell to Boris Johnson and inviting, and this is the important thing, the British Constitution, inviting Liz Truss to form a new government. And yeah, I think that says everything about the Queen's commitment to her country, and also it says everything about the incredibly important role that the monarchy plays in the UK system. The Queen is the person who appoints the government. The Queen is the person who approves legislation, and that's how the Constitution works. And the Queen completely understood that, as of course does King Charles.
So what do you think, what does Queen Elizabeth's death mean for the monarchy and for the country, now led by King Charles III?
Well, it's interesting, Wolf, if I was to look behind me and look at the crowds outside Buckingham Palace, it's extraordinary how many young people there are and how diverse it is. And I think one of the fascinating things about the monarchy, it's its ability to reinvent itself. And all the young people who've come here tonight have come because they have enormous respect for the Queen. And I'm sure that respect is going to be transferred to King Charles. Remember, he has been the longest prepared, the most prepared monarch of all time. And I think he'll do a tremendous job, and he's very well supported and very well advised, and he knows exactly what he's going to do as king.
I suspect you are absolutely right. Simon Lewis, thank you for joining us. Up next, we're going live to Windsor Castle, another place where people are laying flowers right now, and they're sharing their memories of Queen Elizabeth.
I'm Bill Weir in Greenland, and this is CNN.
All new Inside Africa. Go inside the inventive minds, evolving places, and creative trends of the Africa you need to know now. A new generation of tech-savvy South Africans use their skills to inspire.
Women in tech is about to be very big in Africa. I envision a lot more girls of color taking over the space.
Inside Africa on CNN in association with Zenith Bank.
Populations of wildlife need genetic diversity to be resilient, to be able to survive. You get that resilience and you get that genetic diversity by having mixing. You know, you have mixing of jaguars from the northern part of Belize with jaguars of the southern part of Belize. And that means that wildlife need to find their way through that tiny sliver of forest. Imagine you're getting squeezed on both sides, right? Your forest cover is going. In this particular case, it's mostly due to large-scale mechanized monocrop or agriculture that's taking place. We are here at the Cox Lagoon wetland, which is actually a very critical and important part of a 30,000-acre parcel of land that we have just purchased to protect in perpetuity for the people and government of Belize. Hope is the last thing to keep you standing. You know, when there is no hope, then that's it.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. My name is Raza Jaffer, and I'm the founder of Global Sustainability Network and currently based in Dubai. GSN was founded in 2015 with myself, Bishop Sanchez from the Vatican, and Lord Bishop Alistair Redfern from Church of England. GSN was founded to help support heroes who are working around the world to fight modern-day slavery. And we've got a huge task ahead of us as a commitment signed by 193 countries to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So our purpose is actually to support organizations who are our heroes in ending modern-day slavery.
Trends. Tech, new, Marketplace Asia.
Companies are waking up to the importance of mental well-being in the office. A look at the startups focused on building healthier workplaces.
Marketplace Asia. Designing a sustainable future, from reducing our carbon footprint to improving renewable resources.
I hope that we're leading the future into this new world by doing this one truck at a time.
Meet some of the pioneers crafting a better way to live and work.
Buildings of the future need to be completely decarbonized, and this building represents that future right now.
How do they create a world for the next generation? Inventing Tomorrow, Saturday on CNN.
More now on Queen Elizabeth II, dead at the age of 96 after a truly remarkable 70-year reign on the British throne. CNN's Scott McLean is just outside Windsor Castle for us. Scott, so how are people over there reacting to the news?
Hey, Wolf, look, it is almost midnight here, and people are still showing up with flowers to pay their respects to Queen Elizabeth II, and I've been really struck not only by the volume of flowers, but also by some of the handwritten notes, and I just want to show you some of them. This one says, "To our beautiful Queen, thank you, Your Majesty, for all your years of service to your people and to your country. You have conducted yourself with dignity and with class." If you look at this one here, this one was written by a child, obviously, to Queen Elizabeth II. It was... It's been a lovely few years with you as Queen. We will miss you loads. Rest in peace. And if you just walk along here, you can see there's all kinds of handwritten cards, handwritten notes, obviously candles as well. This letter here, quite a lengthy one, has just been dropped. And I just want to speak quickly to the woman who actually wrote it. Her name is Jane, and she's a nurse, and she just got off shift, and you were compelled to come here to leave this note. Why?
I just think she's touched so many lives, actually. And though obviously I'm just a humble person, I don't know her. And I personally haven't met her. My father did, and my son. But I just feel, yeah, she was an incredible lady.
Can you summarise what your message to her said?
I think really that just, although we're just an ordinary family, and obviously they are anything but, the feelings of grief and loss are just still the same. And we can just only empathise and imagine how they're feeling and how proud they must feel to have, been related to her. She's amazing.
She sure is. Thank you so much for talking to us. So, Wolf, this is just a little sampling of what we're seeing from the British people as they pause to remember this incredible monarch, the longest living monarch up until earlier today in the world. Wolf.
Scott McLean, thank you very much for that report. The outpouring of grief across the UK tonight is reminiscent of Princess Diana's death some 25 years ago, and it was a challenging time for the British people, the royal family, and for the Queen herself. It's an angle we'll explore on a CNN special report tonight. Watch this.
We are just getting word that the French government has informed all of us that Princess Diana has died.
This happened suddenly. So their first instinct was, I think, the one that any family would make, which would be to look after these boys.
The Queen and Prince Charles sequestered at Balmoral Castle in Scotland to comfort William and Harry in private. Back in London, there was an overwhelming outpouring of public grief. The British press demanded a public response from the Queen.
People wanted the monarch, but she felt the place she needed to be was with her grandsons.
What do you think that said about her?
It was an occasion where she put family before duty.
Family before duty, something the Queen had rarely done before.
It was the most dangerous week of her entire reign. I think that the future of the monarchy really hung in the balance.
Days after Diana's death, the Queen broke with protocol and had the Union flag lowered to half-staff. And she returned to London, where she met with mourners outside Buckingham Palace.
She drove down Constitution Hill and, much to everybody's surprise, got out of the limousine. She and the Duke spoke to the crowds.
That night, the Queen gave a live address to the nation, only the second of her reign.
So what I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
She saw it as a moment to try to set the record straight about her feelings for the Princess of Wales.
And for more on the life and legacy of Queen Elizabeth II, join us later tonight for a CNN special report, A Queen for the Ages. That's at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight, only here on CNN. Coming up, our coverage, special coverage, continues. That's next.
the ever-changing weather around the world, ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tire that has conquered all, there is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tire.
Hi, I'm CNN meteorologist Jennifer Gray, and this Weather Watch is in association with Visit Maldives. Let's get to your forecast across Europe, because you can see some rain stretching from north to south, cloud cover here, and that's all pushing to the east, giving a little bit of a break across Western Europe for the time being. But we do have a front that's draped offshore that could have an impact in the coming days. So scattered showers really across the UK, Ireland. We're looking at all the way across central sections of Europe to the east as well. Could see some scattered showers and storms. So we're going to look at some off and on rain, sporadic, and then keeping those clouds in place as well. But the rain really flares up across portions of Germany and even France by the time we get into the beginning part of the weekend. So we're going to keep those showers in place there with anywhere from, say, 25 to 50 millimeters of rain. Some isolated locations, especially across the east, could be a little bit higher. So looking at close to 75 there. So Bucharest right around 32 degrees, Athens at 31, sunshine there. Rome could see some storms. Temperatures around 29 degrees, 20 in Paris, 20 in London as well, with stormy skies, or the potential there for stormy skies. So by the time we get into the beginning part of next week, we'll see warmer temperatures across western sections of Europe. Have a good day.
Immerse yourself in the culture of Azerbaijan.
There were those who said it was a dream. And yet independence made the dream come true. Today, in the biggest delta on Earth, one of the fastest growing GDPs is a reality. Because here, medicine, food and garments for the world are made. For the year of the Golden Jubilee celebration of independence, the dream has never been more real, because dreams are made in Bangladesh.
When you invest in people, you give them the opportunity to be more. With up to 20 million young people joining the African workforce each year, empowering the next generation has never been more important. Access Bank's Project LEAD has equipped over 90,000 students with leadership training. And our Pitchathon scheme invests in female entrepreneurs, helping them realize their vision. Access. More than banking.
CNN covering the world's business.
Go to the Trade Center.
It's like the world just stopped.
CNN Films presents 9/11. Monday on CNN.
Finally tonight, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of a CNN original, Bernard Shaw, who died yesterday at the age of 82. He was my very good friend and my mentor, who helped me from the very first day I arrived here at CNN 32 years ago.
The skies over Baghdad have been illuminated. We're seeing bright flashes going off all over the sky.
It was a night that would make TV history. CNN anchor and veteran journalist Bernard Shaw reporting live from Baghdad. It was the start of the 1991 Gulf War.
Clearly, I've never been there, but this feels like we're in the center of hell.
Shaw, with colleagues John Holloman and Peter Arnett, broadcast the first war coverage in real time. The boys of Baghdad, as they became known, reported from the floor of their hotel room as bombs fell around them.
Oh, Baghdad, line's dead.
You really were scared for your life.
Yes, very much so. In war, one moment you're alive, the next moment you're dead.
Dire moments shared by 1 billion viewers around the globe. and credited with turning CNN into the news leader it is today.
It reminded everybody of what journalism can be and what television can be. And it truly put CNN on the map, and Bernie was right at the heart of that story.
Shaw's remarkable career began in Hawaii. He was a Marine, determined to become a journalist, and sought out a meeting with TV news legend Walter Cronkite there on assignment.
Right away, he said, "Mr. Cronkite, I have
Protect
to talk
your
to you.
site
I have
with
to be a
GoDaddy.
journalist, and I have to find out how
You
I
might
do
not
that."
know what
Shaw
SSL
returned to his native
but
Chicago and got a job in radio. That led to an assignment covering Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
The one memorable thing he said to me was, "One day you're going to make it. Just do some
Look
good."
professional with
Eager to
GoDaddy.
follow King's advice,
Let's
Shaw
say there are
once
2
again
new
turned
emails
to
in your
Cronkite,
inbox.
who helped him land a job at
One
CBS.
from a legit-looking business,
As a
and
DC
one from
reporter,
whatever
he
this
covered the
is.
Watergate
Customers
scandal
only open
before
emails
moving
they
to
can trust.
ABC in
Get a domain with a
1977.
matching professional
He
email,
was one of the first
so your business
journalists to
actually
capture the
looks like a
harrowing
business.
scene
Earn your
of the
customers' trust
Jonestown
at
massacre.
GoDaddy.com.
2 years later, CNN came calling.
I'm Bernard Shaw. That's the latest from our Cable News Network Bureau here in Washington.
I mean, we started off, all the other guys had white males as their lead anchors, and our lead anchor was a team of a woman and a black man. So I thought it was real good.
I did too.
Less than a year on air, Shaw led the network's coverage of the assassination attempt on President Reagan.
Approximately 4 shots were fired at the president.
Bernie was Mr. Calm, Mr. Steady. He was never trying to get ahead of the story. He was not trying to say more than he knew. And frankly, that's what you want in a journalist.
6 years later, Shaw's brand of journalism won CNN the kind of White House access previously reserved for the big 3 networks.
5 of the Republican presidential candidates have deserted you. The conservatives, the right wing of your party, are after your scalp.
Shaw's reputation for hard interviews became legendary after a question to Michael Dukakis during a 1988 presidential debate.
Governor, if Kitty Dukakis were raped and murdered, would you favor an irrevocable death penalty for the killer?
It was classic Bernie Shaw. It certainly was a moment when people took another look at Michael Dukakis and made a decision about him that no doubt had an impact ultimately on their vote.
A year later, Tiananmen Square. The Chinese government cracked down on news coverage, forcing Shaw off the air.
For all of the hardworking men and women of CNN, goodbye from Beijing. I'm a child of democracy. And when we were shut down, my temples just froze with anger. I remember that night I went back to my hotel room, and I actually cried.
For more than 20 years, Shaw was the face of CNN and trusted news around the world.
Always steady, always solid, always trusted, and that to me is going to be his legacy. It was the "you can count on him" brand.
But that public trust came with a personal cost. Shaw said he sacrificed precious time away from his wife and 2 children and suffered PTSD from his time in Baghdad.
You pay a price. I happen to believe it's a worthwhile price to pay, but you're going to pay a price.
It was the price of being a witness to history and the privilege of being trusted to report it.
You can depend on us being here all the time. And please, pass the word.
Bernie leaves behind his wife, Linda, and 2 children. Our deepest, deepest condolences to the family. May he rest in peace, and as we say, may his memory be a blessing. Thanks very much for watching. Aaron Burnett picks up our special coverage of the death of Queen Elizabeth right now.
Good evening, I'm Aaron Burnett. Out front tonight, the end of an historic reign. Britain's longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, has passed away at the age of 96 after serving 70 years on the throne. These are pictures outside the Queen's private residence in Balmoral Castle in Scotland. That is where she died peacefully this afternoon. And her family is now gathered there. That includes King Charles III, who is expected to address the United Kingdom tomorrow. And Prince William, who, of course, as of tonight, is now the heir apparent to the throne of the UK. Queen Elizabeth's death was met with an outpouring of grief from world leaders, from people around the globe. President Biden, in fact, just moments ago, paying a visit to the British Embassy to pay his respects. And on the streets of London, where it is late tonight, this is the scene. People still gathered outside the gates of London's Buckingham Palace. Keep in mind, they are mourning, they are honoring a woman who has been a constant for almost everyone there. 80% of people who are living in the United Kingdom were born during her rule. Throughout the day, we have seen the memorial outside the gates of Windsor Castle grow, now a literal sea of flowers. And shortly after the palace officially announced Queen Elizabeth's death, this incredible image, a rainbow breaking through the clouds over Buckingham Palace. Now, the announcement of her death setting into motion a meticulous plan of action that could go on for well over a week, one that is designed to ensure a smooth transition of the throne to the Queen's son, now formerly King Charles III. Today's tributes are a testament to the influence and the respect that Queen Elizabeth held around the world, really a model of tradition and honoring tradition. This is a woman, frankly, who was never expected to become queen, never expected to assume that mantle. She was actually third in line at the time she was born in 1926. Her uncle was king, right? Then abdicated because of a relationship with an American divorcee. Then her father unexpectedly became king, and then she unexpectedly inherited the throne at the age of just 25.
My whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
She seems so young, right? 25 years old when that happened. And she upheld that oath for 7 decades. And it is stunning to think about it. When she got off the airplane from Africa after her father's death, Winston Churchill was among those on the ground to greet her. And he was one of 15 prime ministers she would see come and go. To think about that, Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, and of course, most recently, Liz Truss. In fact, it was just 2 days ago that the Queen met with Truss. 96 years old, she was working until almost the day she died. 2 days ago, that picture was taken. 2 days ago, think about that. And 13 American presidents also had the honor of meeting her. She's also credited with keeping the monarchy alive, thriving during wars and challenges and scandals. And as many talked about the end of the monarchy, she strengthened it. In 2012, she traveled to Belfast, shaking hands with the one-time commander of the IRA, a historic and public symbol of peace after decades of conflict. In 1992, of course, her son Charles and Diana agreed to separate. And 5 years later, in Paris, Diana died in that car crash. It was a tragedy that challenged the monarchy. The Queen's response was restrained in the face of a wave of public support for Diana. But the Queen remained, her popularity rebounded as the world watched the royal family change with the wedding between William and Kate. And tonight, as the House of Windsor mourns, we are seeing more tributes from the Eiffel Tower dimming its lights to a moment of silence at the New York Stock Exchange. We have reporters across the UK, and I want to begin tonight with Bianca Nobilo live from Buckingham Palace. And Bianca, you know, obviously everyone knew this day would come, and yet today was very unexpected in the timing of it and how this happened and where it happened. There are still crowds where you are at Buckingham Palace at midnight. Tell us what you're seeing.
There are throngs of people, Erin, shock, sadness, and grief. As you mentioned, the Queen, as a 96-year-old woman, this didn't come entirely unexpected, but it was the rapidity of the deterioration. Meeting the new Prime Minister on Tuesday and then Thursday passing away. And many people are saying that that is just so typical of her putting herself last and her duty first until the very end, having such a strong sense of purpose and duty to the nation. The main refrain that we're hearing from people, though, is a sense of rudderlessness, that they've lost the historic continuity, the through line of their lives. This country is facing so much turbulence and uncertainty. After Brexit, it's struggling to redefine itself and find its footing on the world stage. We've just come out of a period, indeed, we still are in some respects, of great political turbulence through the years of Boris Johnson and now the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who is not very popular among the country at large and not even a particularly well-known figure, not to mention the fact there is no longer longer peace on the continent of Europe, and the Queen was the figure that helped the nation through those difficult moments, whether it was the COVID-19 pandemic, when the media here referred to her as comforter and chief. She was the one that people here would look to in their moments of turmoil and grief themselves. And it's just so poignant that today, when it's her that they would look to, she's no longer here, Erin. So that's the main sense I'm getting from people, just one of shock and one of profound loss for a figure that they've seen their whole lives, that's always been there either as part of the wallpaper or in a more profound and immediate way in their lives, and that she carried herself with such dignity until the very end is just something else which is adding to that well of reverence and respect.
Bianca, thank you very much. And I will say, to Bianca's point, during COVID, right, an image, at least I know for me, unforgettable, was her alone at her husband's funeral, just standing alone there, but still so strong in COVID. Well, the news of her passing is a moment that so many will remember. Nick Robertson is out front with a look at this day.
It was an alarming statement from Buckingham Palace. Queen Elizabeth was ailing, it warned. The 96-year-old monarch under medical supervision at her residence in Balmoral, Scotland, after doctors became concerned. As members of the royal family rushed from across the country to be by her side at the home the Queen had said she loved most. Harry, the Duke of Sussex, arrived without his wife Meghan. While public figures conveyed well wishes, the world waited for news. Hours of silence from the palace, though hinted at the graveness of the situation. And an uneasiness settled over London as crowds of well-wishers braved heavy rain to gather at the gates of Buckingham Palace. The Queen was last seen publicly on Tuesday when she formally invited Liz Truss to become British Prime Minister, carrying out this constitutional duty for the 15th time during her reign, but this time at Balmoral. She was pictured with her characteristic smile, though looked frail. In the early evening, accompanied by a rainbow over Windsor Castle, and met with flags lowered to half-staff, the announcement came. Queen Elizabeth died peacefully at Balmoral, the royal family said.
Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. She was the very spirit of Great Britain, and that spirit will endure.
The new king paid tribute to his mother, saying her death was a moment of greatest sadness for me and all members of my family. As head of the Commonwealth, the Queen held together 15 nations in an increasingly problematic union. How 73-year-old King Charles III will fare in the position, which lasted largely due to fondness for his mother, is unclear. A resolute and reassuring figure who had for 70 years been a constant presence, Queen Elizabeth won almost universal praise for her steadfast dedication to duty and was considered by many to be a guiding light to the nation and the world.
And that was our Nick Robertson reporting. I want to go now to Richard Quest, host of CNN's Quest Means Business, Sally Bedell-Smith, CNN contributor and the author of Elizabeth the Queen, and Robert Hardman, columnist for the Daily Mail, and author of Queen of Our Times. All of you know so much about this this moment that we're in. Richard, tributes pouring in from around the world. You've got the large crowds that Bianca's reporting on with outside Buckingham Palace to honor the Queen. What does this moment mean? I mean, I think about it, Richard, and I think, gosh, this is a woman who, when she got off the plane, finding out that she, was going to be the Queen, Winston Churchill was there to greet her. It is incredible to think about it.
Duty, duty, duty. That, as Nick Robertson said. I think for those of us in Britain, those of us who are, if you like, subjects of what was Queen Elizabeth II, Stephen Fry, the actor, summed it up in his tweet today. He said, "Oh dear, oh my, oh heavens, bless my soul, oh law, heck." And that sort of is the way I think a lot of it, just talking to friends and to family tonight, because from the day I was born, she was there. I mean, every event, every national moment had the Queen at its centre. Duty was just something born and bred into her, and certainly from her mother onwards. And so I think that that feeling of what next, that uncertainty, and that general feeling of it won't be the same. And you know, the British, very understated, but what I think what they're concerned about this time, Erin, is the sheer large numbers of crowds of people who will be coming to London, both to pay their respects and to the funeral. And the fear is that London could actually become literally full of mourners.
So, Sally, we know there had been talk about mobility issues preventing the Queen from some royal duties. She's 96 years old, of course, but it does appear this was sudden despite that, right? 2 days ago, she was, obviously taking pictures and accepting the new prime minister. That picture I just showed was Prince William driving very quickly into the Balmoral estate, right? They had not anticipated needing to be there. Prince Harry did not get there in time. What are you hearing about how suddenly this happened?
Well, I think it was very sudden. The night before, Prince Charles was hosting a dinner on the other side of Scotland, and there was no sense of any kind of urgency or crisis or anything. So evidently, something must have happened overnight. There was an intimation when she was unable to do her Zoom call that evening, but you could tell by the haste of those cars that it was very, very urgent.
Yes, that they did arrive with haste to try to get there in time, which of course both, well, now King Charles and William did. Robert, Queen Elizabeth took the throne when she was 25 years old. You know, when we played that soundbite of her, right? Just you see the youth and sort of the hugeness of what she was undertaking, and yet she did, and 70 years passed during her reign. What stands out to you the most? I mean, we are at this incredible crossroads now in history.
Well, good evening. I mean, I think that the span of the reign, I think people are still trying to get their heads around what some call the second Elizabethan age. But, you know, this began in the age of post-war rationing. You know, the Korean War was still raging when she became queen. The very first medal she pinned on the very first person at her very first investiture was a Victoria Cross, the highest award of gallantry, on a soldier from the Korean War. And she's reigned all the way through through the jet age, through the space age, into the digital age. I mean, by whatever metric or standard we look back on her reign, she is unparalleled. And I mean, Joe Biden made the point today that she's met 14 US presidents, met every president since Truman up to Biden. Didn't meet Lyndon B. Johnson, but did meet Hoover in '57 on her state visit. I don't think there's anyone in history ever, and probably never will be again, who has met, and not just met, but met and known 14 US presidents. I mean, that level of experience is quite extraordinary. And rather, as we saw with the death of Prince Philip, suddenly people realizing quite what an extraordinary figure he was, I think we're going to see that even more so with Elizabeth II.
And Richard, King Charles III is his formal title now, as he's chosen. He could have chosen any other names, but he obviously chose Charles, and he's now King Charles III. He is going to address the nation tomorrow. You'll be there, and obviously there's going to be a massive procession to Westminster in coming days. But there is a lot on his shoulders now, and a lot riding on those first words that he will give the nation.
And in many ways, Erin, the longer the Queen lived, the greater that pressure became. Because the more loved she was, the more people say, is King Charles III up to the job? The reality is, absolutely he is. He may not be charismatic like William. He doesn't have perhaps the warmth. He's a bit standoffish when you meet him. But the truth is, he's had nearly 70 years practice getting ready for this. And he's been and he's taken more roles and he's taken more responsibilities. There will be a period of adjustment. And I think what we're going to hear from the Queen, from the King tomorrow, I think what we're going to hear is, first of all, just the memory of his mother. And then the secondly is the starting to unite the nation. Although he's king immediately, and there'll be the accession council and the various formalities over the next few days, the coronation, because of logistics and organisation, probably won't take place either. I think it'll be well into next year, unless they can pull it off sooner. And so King Charles III arrives to the throne, pardon the phrase, if you like, with very big shoes to fill, but he's been practicing, rehearsing, and training for a very long time.
And Sally, there is so much riding on this. President Biden went by the British Embassy tonight in New York City. The Empire State Building will shine in purple and silver to honor her legacy. Of course, the United States has a very special relationship with the UK. But what stands out about her is there is no world leader that has so many connections, so many ties, and so much meaning to so many places. She was unique in that way, Sally.
She absolutely was. Nobody else had traveled as much as she had. She knew every corner of the United Kingdom in a way that none of her prime ministers did. And they really relied on her to take the temperature, to find out what the people were saying. She was a really important source for them. So she had so many dimensions, and she kept all of it to herself, which made it that much easier for her prime ministers and everybody else who met her in an audience.
And Robert, you write about what an effective stateswoman she was, which is such a significant thing to say, right? Because in a sense, it's a titular role, right? I mean, you know, foreign policy isn't being run by the monarchy, right? That's not the UK system, and yet she did play such an important role.
She really was a stateswoman in the truest sense of the word. I mean, all the way through, for example, the 1970s, a period when Britain, frankly, was a sort of international laugh, nearly bankrupt. She was one of the few figures in Britain who other world leaders wanted to meet. Through the 80s, she held her Commonwealth together, not by thumping the table and laying down the law, but with gentle persuasion. She was very conscious of the need to stay above politics, but she was extremely good at bringing people together, at coaxing kind of unity out of a combative situation. And when you talk, and I've been lucky enough to talk to many world leaders about her role, I mean, just her relationship with President Obama, for example. I mean, he was absolutely captivated by her at a time when the relationship between the British government and the American government was a little strained, but the Obamas absolutely adored the Queen. She loved having them, and that was the start of a great friendship. Probably one of her greatest friendships was that with Nelson Mandela, the first executive act on becoming president of South Africa. He rejoined South Africa to the Commonwealth. The Queen loved that, and they remained firm friends right until the end of his life. He was the only non-royal world leader who could get away with calling her Elizabeth, and she didn't mind at all. He sort of once said to her famously, "Oh, Elizabeth, you've lost weight." She thought it was great.
All right. Well, thank you all very much, of course, staying with us. And next, I'm going to speak to Queen Elizabeth's former personal chef who knew her for more than a decade. What does he remember about the Queen? Plus, Prince Charles, now king. How will he rule? And what can the world expect from the 73-year-old who will now be king